Well, while Craig's figuring out how to unmute, I see a couple people asked about my daughter's story. Um, so Elena, our youngest child at 11, had a traumatic brain injury, a complete freak accident. We have had horses my whole life, my mother's whole life, her whole life, even my husband's whole life. That's how we met. So Elena is a very experienced horse kid. And at 11, she was over at the lesson barn and the horse spooked. She was saddling the horse up. She was in front of the horse, and the horse kind of reared back, hooked her braces on either the halter or the lead rope. We don't really know. Picked her up by her braces and flung her into a steel pipe rail, ripped the braces off of her teeth, actually just one side of her teeth. Luckily, the teeth stayed in place, thankfully. Um, and as a result of hitting the pipe rail, she ended up with a brain hemorrhage and a skull fracture. And missed about a semester of school, lost her memory, had difficulty in her vestibular system, so her eyes didn't track right. She couldn't read lines on a page. She had to use a special little device to only see a few words at a time. Um, she went back to school with a special needs 504 plan, and previously had been a straight A's honor student. And for 7 months, we did anything that I could find. I should tell you all that I've been fairly naturally minded. I think when you know better with drugs, that you don't want drugs for you or your family. So we've been natural, into health for a long time. Um, we did acupuncture, we did neural feedback, we did brain tap. She did hyperbaric oxygen dives 3 times a week. We did PT and speech and OT and all of the things, chiropractic, everything, Atlas adjustments. We did it all. And to really not any improvement. She was failing 6th grade. She was going to have to repeat. And the teacher had just told my husband and I that she was going to have to repeat. And we're tall. We're both tall. Well, I guess I'm not that tall. I'm 5'6", but tall-ish. And she doesn't look like she should be in, she didn't look like she was behind. She would have looked, not only would it have been embarrassing and terrible to have to repeat, but she also looks 17 and she's 14 now. So we did not want her to have to repeat 6th grade. And my husband said, well, you've got to find something to help her. And I kind of tearfully said, I don't know what else to do. I've done everything. And so for the first time, I kind of gave it to God and I was like, hey, if there's something that can help her, you're going to have to show me because I don't know. I'm putting this on you. I don't know what to do to help her. And 3 days later, my neighbor called. The back end of the story is that she had probably texted me 6 times at least about the stem cell activating patches. And I kind of blew her off. And it wasn't until I was ready to hear it that I even thought, well, maybe this could be something. And so she sent me a voicemail, said, call me as soon as you can. I called her, and she had a daughter who was 16 at that time who had special needs. And she said, Cashel, she went from testing as a 4-year-old to testing as a 4th grader in 3 months of patching. You've got to look at this for Elena. And so I did. I studied it for about probably 4 weeks, dug in, probably spent 1,000 hours in 4 weeks looking at stuff and researching David Schmidt, researching the company, researching, reading all of the clinical trials that I could get my hands on to see, because I thought this was going to cost $20,000. I mean, I can't even tell you how much we spent on hyperbaric oxygen. So I thought I'm going to make sure it works before I, spend $20,000. And my neighbor called to follow up and she's like, there's a money back guarantee, right? And I said, no, I did not know that. And so I said, well, let's order right now then. And so I ordered, they came in the mail. I was a little nervous because there's no clinical trials for an 11-year-old. So I thought I'll put them on myself first. And I was just like you, Annie. I thought I was perfectly healthy. I didn't have anything that I would admit. And I mean, I did have things, I thought had the aches and pains of getting out of bed with stiff feet. I had plantar fasciitis in the morning. So it took, 20 steps in the morning to loosen up my feet. I've had scoliosis since 4th grade. So I've had long-term low level back pain, although I wasn't ever going to take a pain pill, so there was nothing to compare it to. It wasn't like I was always in pain, I guess. And it had started to affect some of my activities of daily living, but never in my wildest dream did I think that this patch was going to be helpful for me. I thought I was perfectly healthy. So put it on myself. Within the first week of wearing the patches, my pain was so much better that I actually told my husband, I said, my back pain's gone. Now, fast forward 2.5 years, now I truly have no back pain. Whether I wear the patch or not, there is no back pain. My back is actually straightened out. I don't have any curvature in my spine anymore. My thyroid is functioning. My plantar fasciitis has been gone for a long time. Just all of these things gone. Well, at the end of the first week, I told my husband, I said, I'm going to stay on these, just so you know. But I'm going to go ahead and start Elena on it. And the very first day she wore X39 and Eon, just put on the back of her neck, she slept through the night for the first time since the accident. Within 2 weeks, if you've ever had a brain injury or a concussion or know of a brain injured person, like oftentimes they're awake, they can interact with you, but the kind of the blinds are closed, the lights are off. I mean, they're there, but you kind of have to, they don't want to interact, they're very secluded. And within 2 weeks it was like the blinds open up, the lights came back on in her eyes, and she was getting her personality back. I mean, she was dancing in the kitchen, like doing this little jig with my husband that she did before the accident, just about 2 weeks after starting the patches. And within 2 months of wearing the patches, so end of May, end of the school year, the teacher calls us back in and says, let's have a parent meeting. So we go in kind of on bated breath, and she says, I want you to look at these tests. And so she hands us, these tests that Elena had taken in May. And she had completed the entire thing, front and back, every page. And she had gotten over 90% on all of her core subjects. And she said, gives me goosebumps still. And she said, with the amount of improvement in the last 2 months, I'd like to see her try to go to seventh grade. And so she let her pass. She went to seventh grade. They accidentally put her into all honors classes, and she made straight A's all year long. No special needs. She didn't need, so her 504 accommodations was she only had to do 50% of the work. She never used those accommodations the entire year. So truly miraculous. We patched her for 6 months because based on the studies I read, I thought that's what she should need for her brain to heal. So we did 6 months. She was truly probably about back to normal by 3 or 4 months. I mean, completely. The extra 2 months were kind of just bonus. And she does not need to wear the patches anymore. So her brain has healed. The tissue is no longer damaged, and she does not need any patches to continue.
Amazing miracle. I love
So,
it. I love it.
yeah.
Very good.